All right, here we go. Friday night is here. It's our Cofield and Company, DC and the Sunshine Man late night podcast. Dave Koken is here. We got a lot to get into. Not as many games to break down, Dave. So we get to do what we used to do when we were doing the regular talk show on ESPN Las Vegas. So happy about that. We'll throw in anything you want to get into. But how was your week?
Interesting. Back and forth in basketball.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say there's been a lot on TV to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually just looking at the latest headlines, which is always a good way to do a radio show, right? And many people do it this way, but it's kind of interesting tonight since we're going to get into some college football. I want to get into some of the hires and some of the extensions. First of all, what do you think of Boise going with Avalos, defensive coordinator at Oregon? Interestingly enough, it sounds like his contract is about the same or pretty freaking close to Marcus Arroyo's. Still a lot of money, but $1.5 million a year, 5-year deal, and Boise resists going after. Not that Avalos is not a big name, but they were kicking the tires on Graham Harrell. I think they made a run at Kellen Moore. So, what do you think of this for the best team in the conference, or the best program long term in the conference? Obviously, San Jose State was very good. What do you think of the Avalos hire?
Well, what was interesting is the paycheck to me, because if Boise has designs of leaving for the American Conference, to me, you pay a little more and try and get a bigger name. I mean, they can do what they want in the Mountain West Conference, but if you're moving to the American, you've got to step it up a little more. And I don't know that they did that.
I'm not sure that it matters. Why are you worried about him getting more?
Not him, but I think at 1.5, they were probably limited to some extent. And if Boise's moving, as they appear to want to do, you're going from, well, let's just say you're going from a mid-major to a close to a major. I don't know. I'm just not wowed by it. But I was never a big Harsin guy, to tell you the truth. So I don't know that it's going to cost them anything. And quite frankly, I'm almost amazed at the Harsin hirings as coordinators at Auburn. It's like, really? Mike Bobo? Mike Bobo got fired at Colorado State.
Yeah,
and he didn't exactly have a great year at South Carolina.
Yeah, the weird thing is, and I don't want to pass judgment on Mike Bobo. I don't know him. But from a character standpoint, it's kind of weird because it sounded like there was quite the fight to get rid of Bobo no matter what, even with the new coach in there at South Carolina. The younger Beamer stuck with him, and then like a week later, he gets offered by Auburn, and he bolts on South Carolina anyway.
Well, there were rumors, and look, I don't know how much stock to put in them, but there were rumors that some of the players were just going to flat out refuse to play for Bobo as an interim head coach.
Oh, wow.
And the school said, well, that's not true. But I don't know. Stuff that gets out there, it gets out there for a reason. I don't think that was out of left field. He wasn't exactly, look, let's call it straight. I mean, based on everything we know and heard, and we do hear stuff in this conference, he wasn't exactly loved at Colorado State.
No.
So we'll see how that goes. And then he hires Mason as a defensive coordinator, who was a good assistant. So maybe that one will work out better for South Carolina. But I don't know. I think that program is going to have some problems moving forward. I don't know that Harsin's a great fit at Auburn. And let's face it, they're already battling a stacked deck right in their own state.
It's funny. We see this so many times on the collegiate level where they get rid of someone, they make a hire, and they're like, you think to yourself, you're like, what was the big deal? Why did you make the move in the first place if this was who you're going to land? And I think a lot of it starts because there's discord and disagreement on who the next person should be. I mean, I think that's a perfect example at Texas. Like, you got rid of Tom Herman and spent all this money to get Steve Sarkisian. Really?
Well, that one I think might work out better because Sark appears to have gotten over his personal issues, and that guy can coach. I mean, he did a good job before he got into the bottle in the Pac-12, and he obviously knows his way around an offense. But Texas is a different animal. I mean, winning there isn't enough. You got to contend for a national title. And whether Sark can do that or not, only time will tell.
Yeah, Ricky is a longtime listener in the market. Can UNLV ever get out of this conference? Not if they don't win at football. I mean, they're already behind the 8 ball as it is. I mean, Vegas is an attractive place, but got to win in football. So all these people out there are like, drop football. You drop football, you have no chance of ever going anywhere. Yeah, you have to have it, and it sucks to lose. But I'm not saying this is their last chance, but I think it's go time here in like the next 6-8 years max, because we're going to start moving towards super conferences with 14 and 16 teams for sure. And if the football program is not going in the right direction, I'm not sure what's going to happen here.
No, I would agree with that. They've got to at least get themselves to a respectable level. Nobody's suggesting that they got to win conference titles, but you can't go over the season, and got to start making better progress. And I'm obviously not knocking Arroyo at this point. He's had 1 year and he had nothing on the roster, but they were really bad, and you got to be better than that.
Yeah, I will tell you right now, if the beginning of next year, first 3 games, right? And I'll have to look at the schedule, first 3 or 4 games. If I start hearing, well, we had to tear it down, it's a rebuild, it's early, like, man, that's the kind of kind of stuff we hear. Like, I like Marvin Menzies a lot, but going into year 2 for Menzies, and Menzies, I'll say Menzies was much worse off than Arroyo in year 1 in terms of the roster he worked with, and he tried. And they competed in some games they shouldn't have competed in, but they had the disastrous Dave Rice schedule because Rice expected to have a really good team, and then they played Duke, which is one of the most lopsided, embarrassing games I've ever seen. That was at T-Mobile. It was just men versus boys. But that year 2, man, fans, especially when you're trying to sell a program, you're trying to sell tickets, Dave, at this great new stadium, you can't be hearing about it's the foundation. It's going to take 5 years to build it. It might take.
That's a lie.
It might take 5 years to build. You can't say it though.
No, and I don't believe it. And here's why.
Yeah.
San Jose State University.
Yeah.
This program was a bottom 5 in the nation program when Brennan arrived. They went unbeaten this season until the bowl game, and half their team was out for the bowl game, so that really didn't matter. That's just no longer a viable excuse when you see what was done at San Jose State over the last few years. UNLV has no excuse. Sorry, because they should get there arguably quicker than San Jose State.
Yep. Better facilities, better funded, and we're talking facilities with the stadium and the Fertitta football facility. Better roster, much better roster to build from. So, yeah, I mean, the blueprints have been laid out there. Like, the pressure's on a lot of these programs that struggle around the country. That guy went from, what was it? What was he? 1-11, I think 2-11, then right at 500. UNLV spoiled the bowl appearance. I think they were 5-6, something like that. And then this year, so 4 years.
Yeah. So it can be, if you can do it there, you can do it any place. It basically destroys the excuse of it takes time at any mid-major level school. If you're a major conference, that's something different. Mountain West doesn't take that long to get respectable or more.
Yeah, I think Arroyo is going to be able to recruit. I don't know about his X's and O's. I'm not willing to sit here and say he's a second-rate coach. And, Ricky responds, his recruiting is further ahead than any UNLV coach I've seen in 21 years in Vegas. He should start getting wins next year. They're going to be young. So. They're going to be young. They may not be as physically developed as they want, but he's recruited well these first 2 years. Now he's filled in with some transfers as well. He got a really good transfer, at least he was when he played at Arizona. Another edge guy. He got a bunch of edge guys, a bunch of guys who can play linebacker. So he's building that defense. He just got a transfer running back from Oregon to go behind Charles Williams and all the small guys they have at running back. So recruiting so far, Dave, has been pretty good. Can he do it long term? But in terms of a quick fix, he's got a chance.
And I want to see this quick fix. There are grad transfer quarterbacks galore out there.
Yep.
Go get one of them.
No, Dave, they're trying to build, man. They got 3 quarterbacks to build around. I agree with you.
Get a grad transfer.
I totally agree. They have to have someone. They might have the quarterback in the program. Any of these 3 guys, including the freshman from Hawaii, might be the guy, but they have to get insurance, and they have got to get a solid transfer. They have to play the quarterback market.
Look, there's some Nick Starkles out there. Okay, Nick Starkel, not a great quarterback. He's not going to be in the NFL,
Right.
but he worked out pretty well for San Jose State. And he gave the kid they like, whose name is escaping me now, the second stringer, a chance to get his feet wet this year and do some good things while not having to be the guy. They're out there. There's, in fact, I'll submit there might never be a year where there are more grad transfers available than right now.
Jim Gemma was saying facilities now dictate there should be a top 30 program. I agree with Mark. It's probably a little aggressive. But here's the thing. How about, and this goes without the facility upgrade, dare to be Reno. How about at least be Reno? Which that's a good program that makes bowl games, and that's the first step. Dare to be Reno. I don't want to hear that it can't work here. If it can work in freaking Reno, Nevada, it can work here. Plain and simple. You can be a 6 or 7 win team every year that pushes to 8. There's no excuses. And if they win, they will get the backing. Fans will go to those games next year.
Oh, yeah.
Still will not be able to get in price-wise to the Raiders games. There will be an audience that wants to go to the games. They will be able to get, we're not talking 50,000, but they'll be able to get 25 to 35 to start, but they got to win. They got to show some signs early on that things are going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be big league to get a good crowd. I mean, it's going to take a while, obviously, because of COVID, but once the Henderson Silver Knights start playing hockey, they're going to pack that place.
Yep.
They're going to absolutely pack the place. It's a minor league team. People are still going to show up because they can't get in to the Golden Knights games. They'll go root for the Silver Knights, and they'll do a great job with the fan base, I'm sure. And UNLV can do all of that. And they've got great people in place off the field at UNLV who know how to treat fans.
How about this other headline in college football? Harbaugh reaches extension to play at Michigan, or to stay at Michigan. What do you think?
I guess he didn't get any NFL offers because I think he left. So he's there, and they can't be any worse than they were this year. But this was historically bad, and Michigan fans aren't very happy right now.
What do you think he needs to turn around? What's his biggest problem?
I don't know, because the personnel looks pretty good. I'll give him a somewhat of a pass this year because it was just such a screwed up year. But you got to beat Ohio State at some point. And he's been completely unable to do that.
Yep.
That's the game that matters. I mean, that's it. You don't have to win a national title at Michigan. You got to beat Ohio State. And they're not even close right now. I mean, what were they, 4 touchdown dogs or something this year? I don't remember what the line was, but it was really big, and that's embarrassing. And the thing of it is, their quarterback play has been lousy, and you would think that's an area where Harbaugh might be able to have some expertise. I mean, the guy was a good college quarterback, and he played in the NFL. And their quarterbacks let's just say they haven't gotten better since they enrolled at Michigan. I don't know why. I mean, I thought, look, I'm not going to sit here and lie. When he went to Michigan from the 49ers, like, geez, what a hire.
Yep.
I thought this was, Michigan's going to be top 5 every year. So I don't know why it hasn't worked out. Maybe he's just not a real good coach. Well, starting to think that.
I think he's a good coach. I'm thinking he doesn't have the passion for recruiting that he needs to have. On the way up at Stanford and San Diego. It was fresh to him. He was fired up. If you're going to be Michigan at the highest level, man, you got to get you're in the muck with the big dogs. You should be in there fighting against the biggest programs, and that's a high level, man.
Yeah, there's certain programs that should never sink to a really low level. They might not be great every year, but Tennessee, you look at Tennessee as a classic example. How is it possible that Tennessee has been this mediocre for this long? I mean, this was one of the great programs in the country. If they weren't top 10, they were pretty close on an annual basis. Won a national championship, and I mean they just tremendous. And they get 100,000 plus to every game there. You can't be this bad for this long, and they've been breaking the rules, and they still suck. That's a real double jeopardy. By the way, Pruitt might finally be out because I think it looks like the AD, whose name just is. We used to have him on the show all the time. Fulmer.
Yeah, Philip Fulmer.
Oh, yeah. it looks like these allegations of wrongdoing might finally have him on thin ice because he was really secure there, and Pruitt's his guy. But if he gets pushed out because of this, then then Pruitt will be gone as well.
What do you think of your guy Garantano landing at Washington State?
Well, let's see what Rolovich can do with him, because this guy appears to be a quarterback savant to some extent, former quarterback himself, and Garantano's got physical tools. He has a penchant for making really critical mistakes, but maybe he hasn't had the best coaching. So he's got a chance at redemption if he wins the job. There's no guarantee he wins the job.
Yeah. Going back to your comments about the Henderson hockey team doing well in terms of attendance, Pickle Gamer says you're not worried about Foley putting a bad taste in the mouth of the Silver Knight fans also. I think this is a developing story, Pickle. I don't think the majority of folks in town are turned off by Foley. I know there are some who are, but he's still Teflon in this town. And bottom line is the VGK is still a hot ticket, and this will be a much cheaper option of going out and watching hockey. But I get what you're saying. The news today that the Golden Knights are going to furlough some employees, and they're going to furlough. Was there? By the way, I didn't get a chance to actually read the story. Did it mention a number?
I did not see.
Anyone else is in the chat room? Did it mention a number of people who are being furloughed? Because
but I'm not going to single out Foley on that.
Anyone having their job put on hold sucks. I heard it was about 15 people, which blows.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mean, it's happening with professional sports teams all over the country. I mean, there's no fans at the games. That's a lot of revenue. That's not being brought in. It's not. I mean, I'm not. Might sound like I'm defending it. I'm not really. I don't know how to approach it. I mean, it's still a business. It sucks. A lot of people have been furloughed from their jobs outside of professional sports too. Just look around the city.
We're very split right now in this country. People consider the other side politically mortal enemies in lots of cases. There was a tweet from a CJ Bear 71, and this tweet said, Bill Foley gave almost $400,000 to Trump, who just inspired an insurrection against the United States that killed a cop. Here's an idea. He can ask for a refund and keep people employed, or better yet, the billionaire can invest in his people. What about that thought that Foley overall contributed $2 million in the 2020 election to various candidates?
It's his right to give his money to whoever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this. If we're to offer a big contribution tomorrow to the same individual, that might be a problem. But, I mean, it's still people's right to support the candidate of their choice.
Yeah. By the way, most people are saying, tennis is what I saw, 10. It's 15. So trust me. Yeah, it's 15 who got furloughed. But yeah, there's a lot of people who are they don't like the way the tickets have been handled in terms of the money being held for a long time. So I don't know. Bill Foley's an interesting guy. I mean, he's the hero that opened the door, crashed down the door to bring Major League Sports here. So he deserves a lot of credit for that. But stuff like this does not score points with the general public.
No, but it's still the hottest ticket in town if they ever start playing again.
Let's see.
If they ever start letting fans in again.
Yeah. This commenter says we are Raiders and Aces season ticket holders. No longer the Knights. Why not? What happened? Explain. Let's see. Pickle Gamer says we can hold your money or we can jack your prices. That's your choice.
Well, that's the choice you make if you want to buy tickets or be a season ticket holder. I mean, the Raiders have the personal seat licenses, right?
They do.
Okay. Well, you don't have to buy a ticket if you don't want to, and the games are on TV anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to buy a ticket. I'm not in the media anymore, so I wouldn't get a press credential. Personally, I'd rather watch the games at home. I'm not big on being part of the, that's just not who I am. I could give it, if there's 18,000 fans screaming, I'm going to be the one guy sitting there going, nice shot. and that's about it. I'm a terrible fan.
The games are fun. The
Yeah,
games
they
are.
are. Yeah.
I'm not a giant hockey guy, but
But I personally enjoyed going to the Wranglers games more
yeah,
because I don't like being in the middle of big crowds. And all right, if I don't really have to pay attention to the game, I'd be bullshitting with people half the time when I was there with the Wranglers, and it's like, oh, did something happen? Okay, or hanging out by a concession stand drinking coffee. I'm just not. I can tell you, I will never go to a Raiders game, but it has nothing to do with ticket prices or anything else. I just don't have my reminiscences of my NFL experiences are not real pleasant. I just had a horrible time at the games. Now, part of that was the weather in New England, which was awful.
Well,
but
how long ago are we talking? Like late 70s, mid 70s, earlier? You said fuck it.
Last NFL game I went to was, I think, 1976. And it was a Patriots home game. It was just absolutely awful. I don't remember anything about the game. I just remember I froze my ass off. It was uncomfortable. We're sitting on aluminum benches. Everybody's drunk. And it's like, I don't need this. I could have watched this at home.
Yeah. CJ Cards fan says VGK games are one of the best experiences in all of sports. I go to 10, 12 games a year. That's cool. That's cool.
I mean, it's not. The owner is going to make his money regardless. So you either want to go to the games because you like going to the games, or you don't. You're not going to the games to root on the owner. It's not like there's a chant that's going to go up at each game going, Foley, Foley. You're going there to root for the players and the team.
I also wonder if it's real in terms of pushback that people are pissed off about Fleury. They're pissed off about Schmidt. If they're pissed off at the way Gallant was treated. The sad thing is if they are, and they're like, I'm not going to games, there are, as someone said earlier, there's still a line of people waiting where they're like, oh, you're not going to go to the games? All right, I'll take your tickets. I don't care.
And you better you better understand how things work in the NHL. It's not a league built on sentimentality. They move guys around in that league like no other major league. And coaches, I think there's like one coach who's been with a team for 5 years and nobody else has. Part of it is that NHL coaches are pretty tough on the players. It's mostly an old school crowd, and the players start tuning them out after a while. So you have to make a change.
Yeah.
And as for the players, I mean, I don't know if you're a big fan of somebody, that's fine. But if you can improve your team, that's what you got to do. And as far as the Fleury thing goes, we're going into this season with a phenomenal goaltending tandem. And in a condensed season, this is a real plus for the Golden Knights to have two number one goalies in a condensed season where you're going to be playing every other night. They're going to be one of the teams that has a fresh goalie ready for the playoffs. Some other teams are not going to be in that situation. I think this is something that's, I understand. Well, Fleury's not number one anymore. Well, he's 1A. He's going to play a lot of games this year.
Yeah.
It's this 56 games. He'll probably play, I would say, at least 20 to 25 of them. I would think you're going to get an alternate goalie system this year, and I think that's really good for the team.
Rhino says team's gotten better, folks. Deal with it.
Yep.
That is the cost of Major League Sports.
Look, I've watched so many teams over the years hang on to their veterans too long and get really bad. So with the Celtics, I mean, they went with that core too long, going back to the great 80s days, and they got bad for a long time. Seeing what happened with, I wonder how Detroit Tigers fans feel about what they did. I mean, they went head over heels in love with their veterans. It's cost them basically an entire decade. You can't do that and be successful long term. The Patriots are the organization that, better than anybody, says once we don't feel we have any use for you, you're gone. And they had a 20-year run that's the best in the history of sports.
And by the way, I'm not saying I dislike the way the Knights run in terms of player personnel and coach loyalty. I like the way George McPhee operates. It's like every year you're trying to get better. The last thing you want is the opposite. Trust me. How many markets do we know of, Dave? We followed over the years where the owners do not give a shit.
Right.
I mean, I think the Cubs are going back into it, which is unbelievable They're just like, hey, we're going to get a full crowd anyway. We'll just make our money like we used to. The Indians, that's a travesty.
They got nothing for these two guys. And the thing of it is that less people buy into this now than they used to. This small market bullshit.
Yep.
Every team in Major League Baseball has an incredible war chest as far as dollars are concerned because of TV contracts and things like that. It's huge. There's not a single team in baseball that can't afford to sign their stars.
Yep. Every team can afford $150 million minimum floor with the payroll, which they should set. There's just no way. There's no way the real power market should be giving money and then watching teams go out there like the Indians and field a team with a $47 million payroll. That's outrageous.
Yeah, what the Indians and Pirates are the models for what no franchise should ever be. The Pirates are the best at it.
Lying?
They are just unbelievable.
Lying and getting their fans to think they're like the little sisters of the poor.
Yeah. And their fans, and way too many of their fans still buy that nonsense.
Yep. Hey, bottom line, as an owner, if you can't afford a baseball team, sell. Someone else can. There's no one who's ever lost money buying a team and then eventually selling it, ever. Not in the modern era.
Never. Zero. They all appreciate in value from the day you buy the team, and they just keep on appreciating in value.
Yeah, and I mean, of all the teams, the Cubs, it's the most outrageous one. It really is.
I think I would agree with that. But I guess you can look at it this way. There'll still be one good team in Chicago. It'll just be the other team.
Yeah.
Because the White Sox are doing just the opposite. It's like, okay, we want to win.
And then there's this. Like, money gives you a good chance at success. You can also overcome with great management, and the A's and Rays have consistently found a way to be good. There should be no team in baseball that is 8 of 10 years averaging like 75 wins. That's bad management or a cheap owner or both.
Yeah, usually both. I mean, Oakland and Tampa are the two teams. If you want to make, if there are two franchises who have sort of an excuse, it's Oakland and Tampa. They both play in horrible facilities, none worse than Oakland. And Tampa, I don't know why they even call them Tampa Bay, because they're not in Tampa, and it's a ballpark that's horribly situated. It's not a nice ballpark to go watch games in. I don't even know why they're still there. They should have moved years ago. The hell with the lease. Baseball should have chipped in on the lease and said, okay, we'll buy you out of this lease so you can go someplace and bring more money into the coffers, because baseball loses millions of dollars every year because of that franchise.
This was a comment reacting to Rhino saying the Twins do well as a small market.
They're not a small market. God.
Yeah.
Minneapolis is one of the top 10 markets in the country. Come on.
Yeah, their owners, the Pohlad kids, are also, as a family, top 5 richest ownership group in baseball. So they got plenty of money. And we've gone round and round on this. Because the Twins aren't winning in the playoffs doesn't mean that they don't do well. They do well. They're going to break out of this at some point. It's a bad skid, but they will break out of it. But yeah, I see media people all the time. They still do it all the time in Minnesota, like in line with this bullshit that they're small market. Stop.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, just common sense. If you're a small market, you don't have an NFL team, an NBA team, an NHL team, and a Major League Baseball team. Small markets don't get that. Okay? That's Portland. Okay? That's Portland. Minneapolis isn't Portland.
It's Green Bay.
Right. In a sense, it is. That's the only program. I mean, Milwaukee's got an NBA franchise and the NFL franchise.
Yeah.
Because we'll call the Packers Milwaukee. But they don't have the other two sports.
Dude, that is, I've never thought about it in all the arguments of the Twins of just simply saying what you just said. You're not a small market if you have all 4 major sports. It's not possible. Not. You have all 4 sports. You're not small market. No. That's awesome. I love it. Someone earlier asked Dave about the expansion around the NBA. Renee is one of our buddies from Kansas City. I know there's some Kansas City fans who would like a team. Seattle should be in the lead. Vegas is in the mix. Louisville is probably in the mix. The wrench that's being thrown into this right now, looking forward, is apparently the T-Wolves were asking for about $1.5 billion, the owner, Glenn Taylor, and they're not really coming close to that. Maybe more in the 1.2, 1.3 billion. So the NBA, they're floating out there. It's going to be 175, $2 billion to get a team. Like, well, if one of your existing teams can't fetch even 1.5, how are they going to get people to expand for $2 billion?
I don't even know if the talent level justifies. Well, the talent level doesn't justify them adding teams, but if it makes you money, well, I guess you just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I think the NHL's done with its expansion for a while. Seattle's the last we'll see. The NFL is not adding anybody. And Major League Baseball, we'll see. They're talking about it. They're talking about adding a couple of franchises. I think they should move Tampa and insist that Oakland get a new stadium or lose the team.
Right.
And then add Montreal and Charlotte, and we'll see from there.
Why Montreal?
Montreal was a good baseball town until the fans got really pissed about what happened in, was it 93 or 94? And they just wouldn't go back. And they didn't have a good facility anyway. That stadium was horrible. But I think Montreal's perfect for a Major League Baseball team. It is a gigantic market that only has one Major League franchise, the NHL. And they can do extremely well with a Major League Baseball franchise. And it's perfect for the American League East. Perfect. Natural rivalry with Toronto. I mean, that would be fantastic.
All right, I'm going to flip the page completely, Dave. This was a crazy week. You're a little bit older than me. You've seen it all. You've done it all.
I'll be 68 next Wednesday.
Happy birthday, right? Happy birthday. Everson, have a birthday right now. God damn it. You were around, you lived through the late 60s, early 70s. A lot of upheaval, right? A lot of pushback on the establishment, a lot of battles between the old and the young. How do you compare that to what we just saw, what we've seen this last year, the election, and now what happened in the middle of the week in D.C.?
Well, this is worse, but it's two different worlds because there was no social media back then. And had there been social media during the Vietnam protests, I just wonder what it would have been like because we hated each other. No, I mean, the hatred was just as bad as it is now. It just didn't show as much because there's no social media. So I don't know. How do you compare completely different worlds? I don't think you can. The world in 1960 whatever or 1970 is just radically different from the world of today.
And our world of propaganda now, the genesis is social media. It is. That's where everything gets stirred up.
It's good, but here's the good part of it.
Yeah.
In 1972, because there was no social media, a lot of people didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yep.
And Richard Nixon won in one of the, it might have been the greatest landslide of all time.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. We just saw, let's just say we saw something completely different happen in this most recent election.
Yeah.
Whether you believe the results or not, at most, even the most fervent fraud conspiracy believers don't believe it was a landslide for Trump. Okay, I mean you'd have to be incredibly stupid to believe that. You might believe that there was a certain degree of fraud that swung the election in some swing states. I'm not going to argue about that because people aren't going to change their mind anyway. But clearly, it was a close election. It was, regardless, it was going to be 51-49 at the most. Whereas in 1972, George McGovern won one state, and it wasn't even his own state. He won Massachusetts. That's it. He lost 49 states.
Yeah.
Against a guy who everybody already knew was doing shit and got kicked out a short time later.
Yep.
So had there been social media back then, we might have been better off because I think a lot of his misdeeds would have been more exposed.
It's a good point. What do you think about what you saw in this invasion, this attack, this terrorist move on the Capitol and the way it was handled by law enforcement.
Well, they weren't very well prepared. And I honestly, I mean, I'm not an expert on this stuff, so this is just an off the top opinion, but maybe they'd be better off if the DC police handled the entire city and not just the outskirts of the political area.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like the Capitol Police were woefully unprepared.
Or part of them were in on it. Because we're seeing some of the images we see of just an absolute lack of preparation. You're trying to hold back hundreds of people with like 5 officers. The selfies were a fucking joke. That was ridiculous. Meanwhile, you got some guys who were like, hey, go ahead in. I'm not going to take a risk. Other guys are getting their asses kicked in the police department. The guy dies yesterday. Yep. That's ridiculous. We saw a claim today. Might have video or a picture of it of a representative actually holding open a door to let people in. Like, okay, was this an inside job or what the fuck? Like, how can you be that unprepared?
Yeah. Well, I know one thing. We've got something big coming up in a couple of weeks, less than a couple of weeks, and they better be better prepared.
What do you think could happen?
What's frightening is had they not been able to usher the actual representatives out of there in timely fashion, we might have had an assassination.
No doubt.
Now that's really scary.
Yep. Well, I think I was really harping on this fact last night that I think a lot of these politicians better batten down the hatches when they're not in DC. Because if they don't have security, I mean, they're going to be targeted.
I wouldn't want that. If you offered me, say, you know what, we like you so much, we're going to not only do we want you to be a senator, we're going to give you $2 million a year to be a senator, plus great benefits. I wouldn't take that job for 10 times that.
Right?
Not a chance.
And if you're doing it, you better your home better be fortified. You better have a top-notch security team around you. Yeah. You think you're walking around the streets of your own state safely with
you
no?
Better have more. You better have more on your door than that camera thing that Snoop Dogg endorses. That might not be good enough.
Did you see?
I love that commercial, by the way.
That was great. Yeah. Did you see Lindsey Graham today at the airport?
Yeah. Now he's a traitor.
Right. And he was being escorted by probably 5 police.
Yeah.
And the one lady who was screaming at him was relentless. I mean, that was like at least 90 seconds, her just screaming at him. That means there's someone out there who wants to get at him. They're going to get at him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's now the enemy of that side of the ledger, and so is Mike Pence. They hate him now. They absolutely hate him now. I don't understand this worship, but...
Yeah, I don't know how big the group is, but MAGA is legitimately a third political party with followers, and they don't like anyone right now. Either side.
They're going to be a third party. I have.
Yep.
That I would bet on is that you're going to see a split in the Republican Party, and it's going to be half staying Republican and half going off to the Trump Patriot Party or whatever they're going to call it. Well, we're already seeing third parties pop up that are separate from the Republican Party. We have one in Nevada that's starting up now. I believe it's called the Nevada Patriot Party, and they are disenfranchised Republicans. If you don't understand why Democrats are dancing around right now, I mean, if the Republican Party splits like this, Democrats might have power for a long, long time. That's just an analysis.
This is a good point here. I want to see what you think. God help us if one of the Trump kids runs, as sports guys calling them dipshits, runs in 24. Would they run as a Republican, or would that be the third party? And is that just a complete disaster for Republicans in the election because what you were saying earlier about Democrats against Nixon, the problem with the Democrats is I'll call it a bad break. It's more than a bad break if you're dead. Robert F. Kennedy was killed in June.
Yeah.
And then, the other guys are just battling it out. I mean, there were people showing up basically a week before the convention. The Chicago convention was such a such a bad look. You were talking about 72 though.
It was 68. You can argue that Robert
Yeah.
Kennedy might very well have won.
He could have won, but
that year.
the Democratic Party was so splintered in terms of the leadership that they had no chance in either. Well, they had a chance in 68, but they had no chance in 72.
Oh no, not at all. I think the daughter will run against Marco Rubio in I believe it's 22, not 1922, 2022.
Yeah.
I believe that's when his term is up, and I think that Rubio, she's a Floridian.
Yep.
Because the family lives in Florida, and I think she's going. That's just my prediction: is she's going to run against Rubio. Now, whether it'll be in the Republican primary, or as a third party candidate, I don't know. But I think she'll be the first of the offspring to run.
Right.
Eric will not run because
why not?
I think even the Trump fans think he's stupid.
Right.
Junior will probably run for something major at some point. He does have a certain. For some people, he has a certain amount of charisma, and he's clearly the more intelligent of the two sons.
I worry about him getting to the finish line to be an elected official. I think he may have a lot going on in terms of his recreational activity.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing: he won't get the votes of those who don't like trophy hunters.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, they'll use those images against him if he runs for anything, because so many people are turned off by that with good reason. And they will run what he did a couple of days ago.
They banned Trump from.
Let me play this video. This is it's a parody, right? But it's pretty interesting. I don't know how to say the guy's last name. Is it Terhune?
Oh, Brett Terhune. He's hilarious.
Hold on one second. Let me figure this out.
I think my funniest thing while you're doing that with Terhune was one of his videos. I watch almost all his videos, and he was doing one of them and meant to say, he was meaning to say, I digress. And he said, I digest. It's like, it's great. This guy is hilarious.
Here he is, because that was the big news today that now Twitter's gone next level. I don't know if Facebook will do it, but they all started yesterday and the day before saying, hey, you know what, the guy's not going to be on our platform temporarily. And then Twitter came out and they're like, all right, he's done. Trump's done. Here's the Trumper, true Trumper, comedian Brett Terhune.
So they banned Trump from Twitter. And all I got to say is so much for free speech, huh? You know, it's like a guy can't even yell sedition in a crowded movie theater anymore without repercussions. Well, good luck keeping the doors open, Twitter, now that the cash cow's gone. And good luck keeping him off Twitter in the first place. Because, Eric or Don Jr. is going to have to start tweeting for him now. Trump's going to have a thought, and he's going to be like, Eric, get off the fucking Xbox and come rage tweet this for me. All caps. You know how I like it. And now how are we supposed to remember to keep law and order? And sure, it's on TV 24 hours a day, but that's the Dick Wolf one. It doesn't mean anything unless Trump's copying and pasting it every 6 hours. Well, good luck, Twitter, because you're going to need it. Because I said it 8 times before, but I'll say it again. I'm going to Parler, and for good this time. And I was serious those other 8 times, but now I'm super serious.
That is classic. I'm out of here. Fuck you, Twitter. We're leaving. Like you didn't leave. You're still here. What's going on?
I've been following him for quite some time. He's a talented guy.
Oh wow! Now they're
Did they actually take it out? I know they had threatened.
Yeah.
They had not. I mean, it'd be a very clear threat to remove Parler from the Apple Store. I didn't. So they went ahead and did it.
Yeah. Is big tech a little out of control with the censorship?
Well, the sharpest legal mind I know personally said that, look, this isn't really. They don't want to lose all these potential viewers or participants or whatever. That's revenue, but they are worried about potential legal liability for the platform because they do have a responsibility to monitor what's on there. And if somebody is saying something that leads to bodily harm or something like that, they can get sued for a lot of money and by a lot of people. And his opinion was this wasn't so much as an editorial decision as more a legal decision. And the person I talked to is, believe me, I can't say who it is because I just can't. I didn't ask permission. But this guy knows what he's doing legally. Okay, he's the sharpest lawyer mind I know.
Yeah,
that's not my opinion. That's from a very well-regarded attorney who I am lucky to be friends with.
Right. By the way, follow Fade. I don't think you're going to get much argument on Biden and enriching his family, or you could throw out almost any politician out there.
Yeah.
For me, Republican or Democrat, I don't care. I don't believe most serve their constituents very well. I don't believe that people who are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions to begin with get into politics to ultimately serve the public. They all get richer, all of them.
Yeah.
Their mission can be, you can agree with it or disagree in terms of philosophy, but they're all there to make money. And most people who voted for Joe Biden weren't like thrilled with Joe Biden and giving their vote. Wasn't it an exciting choice? It was picking the lesser of two evils and trying to, clean things up and get rid of some of the toxic nature that you see just how damaging and crazy Trump is, that he's in, he's got this large base that does not give a fuck about rules, and he doesn't. But no one is pom-poming for freaking 78-year-old Joe Biden.
No. I mean, call it what it is. This was he won because there were a lot of people in this country, well, whatever the number was, 80 million, that were pretty much going to vote for a cat rather than Trump. Okay, then if my cat Bo was the candidate, okay, he's harmless.
I mean, look at the stimulus packages. Who got the money from the stimulus packages? They're like 10% of it's going to actually stimulate amongst the rank and file like us. The majority of the money just went to the rich. Like, I'm not, yay, Democrats. Fuck you. Give us more of the money. And the debate over it, like it's the government's money. Oh man. I mean, most people, there might be people out there who are super enthusiastic about certain politicians, but I would hope most realize this game is bullshit. It is.
It's a for-profit occupation. If nothing else, if you make it to level of congressman or senator, just the speech fees alone, after you retire, they're awesome. You think athletes do well making motivational speeches? Woo! I mean, these guys get huge money. It's that's just the way it is. Got to be pretty. I'm not being cynical. It's just that's the way it's always been.
Every time I see a politician on either side of the aisle, and they have someone come at them, just an average citizen come at them with issues, and they basically ignore them, won't speak to them, treat them like shit, I'm incensed. I'm like, who the fuck are you? We put you in this position to serve us, and then you're acting like you're a local king or lord? Nah, that doesn't fly. It doesn't.
I would say this is accurate. I think most people who run, I'm not talking at the local level, where I think a lot of people do run because they think they can help out their community.
Yeah.
But I do think that once you get to the higher levels, it's the ego is very much in play.
Of course.
Anybody who thinks, I mean, when people Trump, it's all about his ego. Well, on that one, it's kind of like, what, you think he's the only one? Come on.
No doubt. And, I'll counter on the local level, for our concerns, the funding of the stadium before and after, to try to get a politician on who was involved in that vote is impossible. Impossible. You can't get Clark County commissioners like, nah, there's a couple, we'll get Tick on. We got Chris G on a while back, but most of them are like, nah, not interested. Not going to, stoop to that level. Like, what? You're not going to give some sort of opinion, answer the people. In the stadium case, $750 million, and you can't speak to the people on a radio station or talk to newspapers. I mean, that is outrageous. Who are you? So, all right, I'm done. You just get pissed. I get so pissed off. Again, I don't know. I'm not into bullies. I'm not into people pitching one thing about how they're going to serve the public, and then you can't find them. They run and hide. It's nonsense. So, yeah. Jay Lawrence. I wanted to be a politician 20 years ago, but I realized being a douche wasn't in my DNA. And there are politicians who I think have a good mission in mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They can't always get done what they want to get done. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, everyone, if you weren't happy with the stadium funding, and I'll go back to what I said over and over and over again. I think we could have funded the stadium. I think we could have got a better deal and funded a lot less money. Made sure that we, because we always hear like, we're not paying for it. We are paying for it because now there's a shortfall. Secondly, if you noticed, there was a sales tax hike within a year, right? It went up at least another 0.1 or 0.15. Well, like we paid for it.
Yep. Because
there wasn't money to fund what we need on the Strip, which, by the way, the shortage was with law enforcement. And now look what's happened. The Strip is a fucking nightmare, right? So we are paying for it. Oh, the tourists will pay for it, man. Well, they're not right now in a downturn, and then the shortfalls we got to make up. So yeah, you can look it up. You can look up all the yes votes and hold it against them. Make them accountable. But there aren't enough people out there who pay attention to that shit.
No, and that's not going to change. Most people are happy being pretty disinformed, misinformed, or underinformed.
I mean, we can say it a million times. The sad thing is the elections that you really need to be most concerned about are the local elections. Yeah. And obviously president is important, and it was important in this case, but you really should be, keeping an eye on the Michelle Fioris of the world, because those are the people who can really do damage in your life.
No argument here, and no comment on her.
Yeah, it's that's an example of the worst, and there are Fioris in every corner of this country. Sad and really dangerous. All right, want to make some football picks?
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite game in the NFL?
Yeah, I like the Rams.
Hello. All right.
I
hat on. Got the old Chuck Knox hat on. Not broken in. Not Bill. Yeah.
I haven't been that high in Seattle all year. I think Carroll's a terrific coach, and Wilson is obviously one of the best players in the league. But I don't know that that's a really talented football team. Every team's got offensive talent at wide receiver, and Seattle's no different than anybody else. Don't like their defense. I have a tendency to favor defense, even in this age of offense. If you can stop the other team, you got a good chance to win. And the Rams' defense is really good. And obviously, I'd love to have a healthy Goff. That's just not going to be the case, evidently. But I think they can go in and win that game. I think it's a toss-up, and getting 3 is pretty good. I also like the Bills. Look, I understand that the public side, but it's not like the public loses every game. And you tell me who's been playing better than Buffalo the last 6 weeks of the season. I mean, this team is firing on all cylinders going in. They look like a serious Super Bowl contender. The Colts are a good football team, but they're not as good as the Bills. The one knock on the Colts is while they had a nice season, they also played the easiest schedule in the league in terms of the way you can't measure this before the season necessarily, but they ended up playing the 32nd ranked schedule in the NFL. The Bills played a lot tougher schedule, as it turned out. And it's going to be 25 degrees. Don't tell me that that's good for Phillip Rivers. So I think the Bills are going to get him. I'm not saying they're going to kill him, but I think a 10-point win is reasonable there. Tampa, Washington is I made this comment earlier on Twitter and on Facebook that love what Alex Smith has done. It's just such an inspirational story. I mean, the guy literally almost died and then almost had his leg cut off. And for him to make it back this far is amazing. But I don't think he should be out there. Now he's got the calf injury, which further restricts his already zero mobility. He can't move at all. I don't want to see him get hurt. I mean, it would be a great story if he led Washington to a phenomenal upset of Tom Brady tomorrow, but I don't know. I think he's done enough, and I think it's time to move on to the next chapter. I think I really believe he's going to retire after this season anyway.
Wow.
Because, this isn't going to get better. And I think he's already accomplished something that's going to be difficult to top. And this guy's going to be successful at whatever he does next. Tremendous guy, whether it's broadcasting or coaching. I think he's going to be fabulous. But I would just as soon not see him play anymore. I think that comment about Tampa winning by default. Well, without Smith has no shot. Washington has no shot. I'll disagree with that. I think he's so limited at this point. I think they've got a better chance with Heineke. They'll simplify the game plan, but they've got to keep it simple even for Smith because he can't ad lib. He doesn't have time. He just can't ad lib anymore. Now Washington's defense is really good. They've got a heck of a pass rush, and with the line being as high as it is, I don't know. They might be able to hang in there, but if they fall behind, I don't know what they're going to do. They can't run. You can't run on Tampa. They've got the best rushing defense in the league. And, well, okay, without a healthy Smith, there's never going to be a healthy Smith ever again.
Yeah.
Okay? He can't move. Is it Mar? Okay. He can't move. Okay? Even with before the calf injury, it's like if there's a pass rush, he just has to go down. He can't move. He reminds me of Namath at the end of his career, and he ain't no Namath, okay? I mean, I like Alex Smith, but he's not Joe Namath. Namath was actually a liability at the end of his career. He couldn't move. Johnny Unitas was one of the greatest quarterbacks who ever played. His last year was pathetic. He could not move.
Why?
And he wasn't facing 6'4", 260
right.
guys who could run 4.5 40s. Okay, they were big, slow lummoxes back then.
You mean Art Donovan wasn't running a 4.7 40?
Unless if there was a beer at the end of the line, he might have been there.
Yeah.
I miss that guy. He was great.
One of the funniest storytellers ever. What a character. And he got crazier as he got older.
But I remember I was a Namath fan.
Yeah.
I didn't like his team because, I'm not a New York fan. But, I mean, when he was at the end with the Rams, oh, my God.
Dragging the leg.
Oh, it was sad.
No.
And I don't want to see that with Alex Smith, and he's really close to that at this point.
Yep. Mission accomplished. He came back.
Yeah.
It's one of the most amazing stories ever. You can walk off.
And he was not good. Let's understand that Washington's not in the playoffs because of Alex Smith. They're in the playoffs because they're in the playoffs for two reasons. One, they had a very good defense, which really got even better when Chase Young figured things out in the middle of the season because that guy is friggin' ridiculous. And they played in the NFC East, which was the worst division in the history of the NFL.
Hey, looking ahead to next year, and we don't have the totals yet, and obviously we don't see roster changes. I mean, one of them, you could have the Redskins, somehow land a monster quarterback. I don't know who it would be. Is it almost an automatic under for the win totals on all four teams? Maybe not the Cowboys, but unfortunately the Cowboys, because it's such a public team, they're still going to pad it, and the win number is going to be, it ain't going to be 6.5.
No. Well, it depends on where Dak is because he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Right.
He's not. I don't think he's a top 5 guy, but he's not next group. I mean, Dak Prescott's really good. Their biggest problem is the guy in the press box or in the owner's box.
Yep.
I think the Giants aren't that far away, but the quarterback position remains. Who knows at this point? I mean, Barkley will be back. The defense is quite good. I think Joe Judge is fiery, and I think his team's going to play for him. So I don't think the Giants are that far away in that division. If they were in another division, that wouldn't be the case. But there are no good teams in the NFC East, and it's still going to be pretty much that way next year.
Will there be a win? Will there be a team with a win total over 8? Could there even possibly there'll be an 8.5?
Yeah, I think somebody will be an 8.5.
Giants are 8.5.
Might be the Giants. Depends on what they do in the offseason.
Giants are 8.5. You go over?
I don't know. I got to see what I think.
Right.
I think the Giants are on the verge of being good. Not great,
All right.
but good.
Well, we didn't get your take from the beginning of the week. We'll get back to the rest of the playoff games. What do you think of all the fury around Peterson saying, you know what, the draft pick is more important. I don't want to win.
Okay, so I had information prior to the game, and it came from a very good source, and he was right.
Yeah.
Sudfeld is going to play a good portion of the second half, regardless of the score.
Yep.
2 reasons. One, they wanted to reward the guy. He's been a loyal trooper for a while there, who never gets a chance to play. And secondly, they wanted to kind of see what he can do, because Wentz is gone, and they've got to decide whether they're going to draft a backup quarterback, anticipating that Hurts will be the starter, draft the backup quarterback, or keep Sudfeld around. They really wanted to see what he could do on the field. It wasn't very good. I think they, but you got to find that out. And I had less of a problem with it, not only for that reason, but also for the fact that Hurts was 7 for 20 for 70 yards.
Right. It's the situation. Listen, of course the Eagles were
It was a bad look.
It was a bad look the way he handled it. But I mean, it's not a shocker that they were looking at it like, we don't need to do our best to win this game. The big picture is get the 6 pick over the 9 pick. But man, people went so crazy. They're like, how could you take out Jalen Hurts? Like, he wasn't good. He's not an established quarterback. He wasn't good that day. It's not outrageous that he came out of the game. And then the Giants fans acting like babies, and then the New York media fanning the flames. Then you got guys like Sal Palantonio and Dave. I hate to say it, but a lot of older guys like yourself. The integrity of the game has been.
Please.
There needs to be an investigation, and a lot of us are like, "What are you talking about?" We were just screaming a while ago about politics in general, and like, no one is in favor of big government, and no one is in favor of big NFL. The NFL, you don't want the NFL or Goodell's snout looking into.
There's no investigation. There's no investigation necessary.
There isn't,
because they did what they just didn't make it public.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not making this up. I had the information the day of the game, and I sent it out to a few people, not my customers. I mean, I didn't want it public. I said, just keep this under your hat. But Sudfeld's going to be playing in the second half of this football game. In fact, I had been told he might play the entire second half. Turned out he played the fourth quarter.
And he did. He did get a lot of reps in practice during the week. That's been established.
Yes.
I think what I'll say internally. Doug Peterson is a clunky guy, and I almost feel like he was trying to hide it from his players. And it's like, Doug, they're adults. Just tell them before the game. Hurts is playing the first half, and make it a positive, like you just said. Nate deserves some time. He's done a great job for us in prepping. He's going to play in the second half, so that guys aren't sideswiped and all pissed off. It's like, just handle like a man up front and inform them.
This isn't, no, don't disagree, Dave, but start him then. No, why start him? You want Hurts to get his reps too.
Right.
Hurts is a rookie. Okay, he treated it somewhat like what coaches do in the preseason. Where, okay, we're going to have starters out there for the first half. Then we're going to take a look at guys, because we need to find out what we've got as far as depth is concerned. And here come the guys in the second half. They're not going to be playing in the regular season, but they got to decide who's going to be on the team for that year and for future years. This was an opportunity for them to do it. And here's the other thing. Don't go 6-10, Giants.
Right.
Okay?
What do you think of Judge wagging his finger at the Eagles about integrity? And we'll never do that.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have a problem with the Giants being upset about it. Yeah, sure. Okay, they're competitive, and they wanted to see the Eagles have their best guys out there. But the Eagles' only allegiance it's not to the Giants.
Right.
It's to themselves.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. You do what's best. You do what's best for your own team, in your opinion. How it impacts the other team has nothing to do with it.
It's funny. Like 5 minutes ago, when we were talking about Alex Smith going bye-bye, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, the Redskins really do need to get a direction here on the quarterback. I was like, what pick do they have? And I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot they won. They have the 19th pick. Yeah. That's the downside of this whole thing. While you're building culture, and it is exciting to make the playoffs, and maybe they needed that. Now they're in a rougher position in terms of getting the quarterback of the future.
Well,
so
I would gamble. They can take a gamble. There's a gamble pick out there.
Who is it?
Mills. the kid out of Stanford. He can play. That guy's going to be an NFL quarterback. And I'm going to go ahead and say he might be the value quarterback in this year's draft.
Really?
The value quarterback. I don't think he's going to go probably until the 4th or 5th round. That guy's going to play in the NFL. He's got, I believe, watching him, he's got NFL skills. He had some moments that were horrific. I forget which game it was one of the last Stanford games. He had a stretch in, I think, the third quarter. Was like, what the hell is going on here? But that kid can play. He had a lot of injuries, and he's super smart, which matters in the NFL.
Right.
And physically, I think he's gifted enough to be, I think he'll be a starting quarterback down the road in the NFL.
In all likelihood, they're going to get a bridge, you know? Maybe they could get a Mariota, a Trubisky, a Tyrod Taylor, you know? They'll get someone like that, and they'll try to find their quarterback of the future, but they're going in the right direction. The defense is awesome. Chase Young was I'm going to say crazy value pick, but he was the best player in the draft. He even, is he even better than Justin Herbert? Yeah, probably. They're in good shape.
Yeah, they actually are. I mean, that guy is.
All they need is the owner to say the NFL to tell the owner, get out of here, sell the team, or we're taking it from you.
I wouldn't mind that. But Chase Young is he's going to be on. He's one of that handful of guys out there. It's like you're screwed if you're playing opposite him. It's like if you have to defend Aaron Donald, good luck. And that's the way Chase Young is going to be.
Yep. And they might have a franchise running back in Antonio Gibson.
Nice
they got
player
on him. A couple of years ago, McLaurin, not a first-round pick. That was good value. Ron Rivera is a quality guy. So,
yeah, they're in pretty good shape, except at quarterback. So do what you suggested, or maybe get lucky in the draft. I'm not. By the way, I wasn't suggesting they take Mills at 19. But I think maybe if you're Washington, you might look to take him, see where he's projected, and then go at least a round higher. If he's projected to be a 4th rounder, take him in the 3rd.
All right. Saints 10 against the Bears.
I think the Bears might get killed because Trubisky can't play against a good defense. I know he had a few decent games down the stretch, but all 4 of those games were against 4 of the worst defenses in the league. And, the running backs are going to be back for New Orleans because it's a Sunday game. And the fact they've had to practice on Zoom or whatever, you think that matters to their stud? It doesn't. They're really good. I don't think the Bears have much of a chance in that game. Numbers high enough to keep me away from it because I really hate laying doubles. And yet, double-figure playoff favorites have actually been very good. So I might play it anyway.
Total 47. I know you're not a totals guy.
I don't know where the Bears are getting their points from.
I don't know. Maybe go for touchdowns instead of kicking field goals all the time. Take a chance.
Well, then they'll get nothing probably.
Right.
Take the 3.
Start thinking that way on 2nd down. Right. You got to be a little more aggressive.
I think that's the team that most. I mean, as much as anybody, because they've got a lot of talent on that team. They need to figure out some way to get a quarterback.
Yep.
I think they're going to have to trade up, and I know it would mean a rookie, and that's a gamble, but I don't know. Maybe you take a shot and trade up and find a way to get Wilson or Fields because these guys might have a chance to be pretty good. But to me, there's only one sure thing quarterback in this draft, and that's obviously Lawrence, who's going to be a monster.
You getting any inside information, any good sources on Cleveland and just how bad the COVID thing is?
Yeah, it's really bad. That's not inside information.
Yeah.
But it's just really bad. And on top of that, they're going into Pittsburgh where they never win. They've lost 17 in a row. The Steelers basically, they had a week off. They didn't play anybody last week. I mean, it looks like a pretty good spot for the Steelers. In Cleveland, I don't know. Do they ever win a game that matters?
Doesn't feel like it.
I can't take them.
And I know you mentioned it on the radio today. The number is probably going to go up. So if you want to play the Browns, wait.
Yeah. I think this line's getting to it. I think it's going to get to 7. It's the last game. It's a standalone game, and the only information coming out on the Browns is bad. It looks. I mean, it looks like a difficult COVID weekend for the
Right.
teams from Ohio, Cleveland, and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean, we're hearing 20 guys now in Ohio State.
Yep.
And reportedly, I can't verify this, but reportedly, they kind of begged to maybe get the game moved, and at this point got turned down, which probably isn't fair, but
yeah,
that's life.
Dan Patrick said it today, the 20, upwards of 20. And Patrick on the biggest stories around the Big Ten, especially the cancellation and the return of the Big Ten, whoever his source is, was awesome because he nailed it often. As soon as I saw the Patrick comments, I laid the 8 with Alabama this morning. So I was actually planning on picking Ohio State. There's an RJ poll that comes out on Sunday, I think, or Monday, and I already sent it in. I picked Ohio State to win the game. I'm right after this. I'm correcting that. I'm going to take Alabama to win the game.
I'm not even sending it in. I got the invite from Todd Dewey, and I have such a non-opinion on this game at this point. It's like I'm not putting my name on a pick.
All right.
I mean, I'm going to give out an opinion,
right?
Wager talk, but it's going to be as low a ranking as I'm allowed to put on a game.
All right. Hey, you got
one star.
You got a real rep to
and I'm not selling it.
Yeah.
It'll just be posted as a free opinion.
Oh wow. All right. Well, that says a lot about your take.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just saying I don't want any money on this because I don't. I mean, I like giving out stuff I think I'm going to win, and I have no idea. I don't know who's playing.
Yeah.
You know, how do you play something without knowing who's playing?
Yep. Let's see.
How's Alabama avoiding COVID positives? I don't know. Good luck, I guess. Because I think it is a matter of luck. I mean, I really do. I think it's just, look, I mean, a friend of mine, I'm not going to say who it is, so don't ask. But a friend of mine told me that his sister and brother-in-law are now done with it, and they've done nothing but stay in for the past 6 or 7 months.
Yep.
And somehow contracted it. I don't know. I mean, it's just.
I do have you're right. Because I really tried to stay away from, hey, this person's a moron. I can't believe they got it, or this program blew it. There are some programs out there that I worry about in terms of discipline, and it kind of lays at the feet of the coach. Alabama did handle it well, right?
Well, they've got an iron fist running that program.
Well, why doesn't every program have an iron fist?
I don't know. Well, probably because they don't win like this guy. Nick Saban is God as far as college football coaches are concerned, and with good reason. I mean, you can argue it's him or Urban Meyer as very possibly the 2 best college football coaches of all time, or at least of modern college football. I mean, I don't want to crush Bear Bryant fans because Bear Bryant was the best in his day, but it's a different playing field now. And I don't care where you put Urban Meyer, he's just amazing, and so is Saban.
Yeah,
and he's purely a college coach. I don't think Saban was made for the NFL. I think he's a guy who absolutely rules with an iron fist and can get away with it in college, and he's built up the respect level so that his players will do whatever. They will run through walls for him.
Yep, and especially the fact that Waddle's coming back is amazing. Absolutely, should he come back? No way. I mean, it's a special game. You can win a national title, but he's putting a lot at risk. You know what? I just, for a second, I like the iron fist thing because sometimes people need to know that there's a real penalty for fucking up and being irresponsible and screwing over your, in this case, coworkers, your teammates. Like that, there has to be real fear. And you're right. It can happen. You can do everything right, and you can still get it.
But I also don't you think that the fact that Saban himself
got it.
It's like, you know what? This isn't very fun. Now, I don't know anybody who has said, "Yeah, it was an enjoyable experience having COVID." Nobody has said nobody has said that. Okay, and Saban's not a younger guy, and it's very conceivable, and he didn't feel very good for a while, and maybe he said, "You know what? This shit's real." And I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure as few guys as possible in this program, be they coaches, administrators, staffers, or players, get this thing. And we already know he runs a very disciplined program.
I was going to go into a whole situation in radio where someone made a really stupid move, thought they might have it, felt it, got a test, was waiting on a test, and still showed up to do their show. I don't know. I don't even know how you, as an employer, I'm not even sure how you deal with that.
This is why I think he's a good football coach, but I think Dan Mullen might be an idiot. I think guys advocating putting 90,000 people in the seats.
Yeah.
And then after that, by the way, guess who got a positive test? So.
Yep. Let's go back to I punched that Jets question up. Let's go back to that for a second. And it was really about Sam Darnold. I'm starting to get worried. I haven't seen this reported in lots of places, so I'm gonna believe it for now, and hopefully it's backed up. Maybe you've seen this already. Dan Mullen has an interview scheduled with the Jets in the next couple of days. When I saw that, I'm like, if this guy's hired, I think I'm done. Like, this may be the final straw after what he did after that ass kicking. And he comes out and he's like, basically, game didn't count. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? If he gets hired by the Jets, doesn't even matter if Darnold's around. That guy, what a low character buffoon he is. And the other thing is, if he pulled what he pulled after the Florida-Oklahoma game in front of the New York media, you know what would happen?
I can just imagine the headlines in the tabloids now. Look, the first thing the Jets should do would be to agree that they're going to keep Darnold because there's no quarterback that's worth the number 2 pick this year. Yep. And they've got weaknesses everywhere. So go out and get a star with the number 2 pick. It doesn't have to be a quarterback. Chase Young isn't a quarterback. Neither of the Bosas are quarterbacks. These guys are real difference makers. They're great players. And there are some great players out there in this year's draft who want quarterbacks that'll help your team. They can be nucleus guys. And by the way, we don't even know. Darnold still might be pretty good. Mm-hmm. Don't know. I'm not looking at him and seeing the next Tom Brady, but I think he's got a chance to be a good NFL quarterback. He's got less than 2 seasons in, basically, and nobody around him. Nobody. He's made some mistakes. There's no question about that, but there's some guys I look at and I'll write them off after 2 years. I haven't arrived at that point with Darnold. I think he's still got a chance to be a pretty good quarterback.
Rhino's put up that the Jets interviewed Marvin Lewis. He's laughing. I would not be outraged if Marvin Lewis was hired. I wouldn't be, like over the top excited. I think there's other candidates that would get you fired up. I'll say this, and it's not because I wanted this prediction to come true or I want hey, I was right. I said about 2 weeks ago, I don't think Eric Bieniemy's getting a job, which I think is going to be a complete shitstorm for the NFL.
Yep.
I would actually take Marvin Lewis over Eric Bieniemy.
Well, I know this will raise some eyebrows, but I always thought Marvin Lewis was a pretty good head coach because I never thought the Bengals had a whole lot going for them. And I know they never won a playoff game. They also made the playoffs, 6 or 7 years in a row? Mm-hmm. And he did that with Andy Dalton.
He didn't have a top 7 quarterback. Yeah, it's fun. It's funny when we had a great conversation the other night about you really judge coaches when they don't have one of the guys, and if they can win at a decent level when they don't have that super franchise quarterback. And Seren Petra was on Wednesdays, and he made a great point. I've never thought of this. When you think about how important quarterback play is, and a coach who won multiple Super Bowls with different quarterbacks, Joe Gibbs may be the best coach in NFL history. Mark Rippon, Joe Theismann, Doug Williams. I mean, solid to above average, in their peak, but
Theismann was the best of that bunch before he got hurt, obviously.
Yeah,
but I never thought Theismann was one of the truly elite quarterbacks in the league. He was good. Rippon was average, would be a compliment.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good call on Gibbs.
I think Eric Bieniemy can be a head coach somewhere, but I'm telling you, folks, I think Philly, New York, and eventually New England. There's a certain kind of coach that needs to be in those markets, and I just don't know that Eric Bieniemy is one of those guys in terms of dealing with the media. I
Would
think
he be a better fit in
more.
LA with the Chargers?
Yes, yeah, because no one
I would
cares.
agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, my choice would be Brian Daboll if he wants to go there.
Well, I think Daboll is the number one guy out there.
Yep.
He looks like, I mean, you never know, but he looks like he's a can't miss.
Yeah.
And Saleh is probably right there with him.
There were also reports today with Bieniemy, and you know, this is another thing we talked about with Petro, and he's all over the Bieniemy and Kansas City scene. Eric Bieniemy is one of those guys. He may not, go into a room and blow people away. Like, and I know this, when we start talking about lack of diversity and, black coaches are fighting an uphill battle. And hey, you go back and Tony Dungy had to interview 17 times in the NFL for a head coaching job before he got the gig. But there is a reality. You do have to go in there and at least be somewhat representative. Why am I blanking right now? I freaking, I'll look it up. Go ahead. Well, what do you think of that? That the interview, like if Bieniemy's going in and he's not blowing people away or even decent in the interviews, I mean, he's setting himself back big time.
We know this. There's a really good chance that had Reggie Theus shown up prepared for the interview when he was competing with Dave Rice for the UNLV job, Reggie might have gotten that job. But it was such a bad interview, we were told, that he eliminated himself from consideration.
Now, Reggie's different. Like
interviewing matters.
Yeah, but Reggie's different. Like Reggie can come across as a confident guy, a leader. Right. He's got a command, right? But the unprepared part is like, hey, what's the game plan here? And it was more style or substance in that case. But I'll give you the example of Bieniemy, again, related to the UNLV program. Justin Hudson should have been a head coach at a program way before the Fresno job. You talk to him, he's a nuts and bolts guy. He's obviously a defensive genius. I think he can really recruit. Mm-hmm. But, when he went in front of the bosses at many spots, they were like, hey, I'm not feeling it.
Well, and part of that is their job is not only to hire a coach, but it's also to hire somebody who's going to wow the base and get them to kick in a lot of dollars.
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
yes.
That's the business.
That's part of the job, of course. Yes. You got to shake hands and, kiss the babies. And you got to get money out of these people.
Let's face it. I mean, Tony Sanchez, Tony's a great guy, but he got hired at UNLV for one reason. It had nothing to do with coaching football. He was hired because he was going to make that donor cash register ring, particularly with one donor. And he did. Okay. Yeah. I mean, whatever you can want to say about Tony Sanchez has a legacy at UNLV that's very positive. He really improved the facilities.
Yeah.
That was Tony. He did that.
I'll give you another UNLV guy, and I hope he gets a head coaching gig at some point. But when you talk to him, he is so fired up, and he's a quirky dude. I really like Ryan Miller, Mike Miller's brother. But if you've ever talked to Ryan,
I don't know.
He is like fucking bouncing off the walls. And I could also see interviewing and being like, oh my God, I don't know if we could have him in front of boosters. And again, I like him. I think he's a great guy. But a lot of times I talk to him like, Jesus, dude, slow it down. So, I mean, just like in anything, unless you are super connected and you're juiced in, and that's a disadvantage a lot of people have. And it's crazy in the NFL how much nepotism there is, when you look around and you're like, oh, that guy, Zach Taylor got the job because he's connected to Mike Sherman. And, Nathaniel Hackett is moving up the chain at 1,000 miles an hour because Paul Hackett was all over the NFL.
Oh, yeah. So guess what? Nepotism exists.
That's the real world, man. It sucks.
Welcome to the real world. That's not going to change anytime soon. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Nah.
It's that way in every business, by the way. It's not just sports.
If Bieniemy doesn't get the Chargers job, then what is it? If he didn't blow away the Falcons, I thought he's a perfect match for Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
I mean, I don't know. But I don't think he's getting the Jets job.
Yeah, I don't. I say it with every one of these hires, and that's why Gase was very dangerous too. He's such a fucking weirdo. Man, if you can't play the game, and it's not a certain personality type. It's just there's multiple personality types that can handle New York. It's just if you're super quiet. I mean, I don't know. I think there's guys who've coached there in the past who actually could work elsewhere. They just weren't, cut from the cloth that it works, in that Northeast corridor.
And look, there's certain guys, as soon as they get a New York job, before day one, that it's going to be a disaster. I mean, I don't know anybody, and not one single person who ever thought Isaiah Thomas was going to be a positive result in New York. It's like, you could not ask. You basically can't get a worse guy for this market. And it turned out to be disturbingly accurate.
I think Todd Bowles he's a good example. I think Todd Bowles will get a second chance, and I think he'll be a good head coach elsewhere. It was just, the biggest thing was he's a baseline guy. He doesn't get emotional. And that just, in New York, they're like, you gotta get fired up. Like, no, you don't. But you guys are fucking lunatics. So this guy who's a baseline guy never goes too high or too low. It ain't going to work here.
No, it's got to be guys. And even you can say this about the players too, if they're high profile, they've got to be able to handle that market. And a lot of people are not good in that market.
Odell Beckham. Yeah. I mean, you're feeding the beast with him.
But I think Judge is a very good fit for that market.
Yeah.
I think he's going to work out there. Even though, I think it was all bluster after the Eagles game. I like the stance he took in terms of just, this is that it played well with the audience back there. And you do want that. You do want to play some politics with that audience.
It's a good question. If the Jags get the dynamic duo of Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence, is it actually the worst thing for the fans? Because that could be the final setup to get them the hell out of there and move them to London.
I don't know. I mean, I think from a business standpoint, I think it'd be great to move the team to London. Okay, it's
right.
Jacksonville. You've been there, and so have I.
That's slow.
Oh boy,
it's not an NFL city. It doesn't look. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think it's like when Spanos was kind of, and he's a dirtbag, but looking down the stretch, it's like you can get mad at Spanos for moving the team to LA, but look what it did to his bottom line. And it would be the same thing with Shad Khan. I mean, you go from Jacksonville to London. What is that? Triple the value of the franchise.
Well, and you've got the fact that, moving from San Diego to LA, it's like, why would you want to leave San Diego? It's just awesome. But if you ask, why would you want to leave Jacksonville? You'll get 100 different answers in 100 seconds. It's Dullsville. I mean, it just is. There's so many great places in Florida. Jacksonville. When you hear people, I'm going to Florida on vacation. No. You know how many say they're going to Jacksonville? 0. Okay, right. Nobody ever said that, ever.
Yeah. All right, guys. Good job, Dave. Appreciate it. We'll cut out tonight. We're going to be every Friday in 2021. DC and the Sunshine Man coming back, and obviously we'll go back to the show that we every week we'll kind of build on that, the show we used to do, and do a lot more topics other than sports gambling. But yeah, spread the word. Spread the word. Dave's a legend. I'm okay. I think we're going to do a really good show like we used to do, and we're going to have a lot of fun in 2021. So join us every Friday night at 10:30. Dave, thanks, dude.